right, so as you can see, this is a New Holland C245 Skid Steer. We're gonna need to do the same thing and turn our switch on here. Just like with our marine software, I'm gonna show you, in the software it actually shows where the diagnostic connector is. This one's pretty easy, but as many of you know, on some of these implements, the diagnostic connector can be pretty hard to find sometimes. All right. So now that we've got it started, it's 96 degrees out here. So we're going to take full advantage of TEXA's TXT multi-hub and the Wi-Fi capability. All right, guys, so now that we're back inside in the nice air conditioning, we're going to go to our Off-Highway software. Start from the very beginning here. So you see that there's multiple categories, so you could either go into the agricultural vehicles, construction and special vehicles, forklifts and telehandlers, and standalone industrial engines. So for this specific vehicle, we're going to go into construction and special vehicles. This is a New Holland, as we stated before. So we're going to go New Holland construction equipment. And like I said, this is a skid steer. So go down, it was a 245, so we're gonna go L200 series. It is a Tier 4 final system, and it does have SCR. Okay, so same thing as before with the marine software. As you can see on the left side of the screen, you have self-diagnosis, technical data sheets, so that's vehicle specific, as well as component sheets. Let's start here first. We'll go into the wiring diagram. So in this particular field, we have wiring diagrams for the diesel injection, as well as the engine vehicle adjustment. For example, pull up the wiring diagram here. Again, same thing as our last video. It's got a diagram key. You can also search around these wiring diagrams to find specific components. This is really good for ease of use as well as speed. So time is money, right? Again, you have your device cards available. Tells you about the component, the description, some recommended checks, analysis and verification, your pinouts, and your resistance values. How to go about checking it. All right. Technical data and checks. This is really cool. Let's see here. We got Tier 4 final system. So this is everything about this piece of equipment. So everything related to the injection system, turbocharger, settings and emissions, your checks and adjustments, your tightening torques and tightening sequences, and engine and accessory timing, your belt routing, and so forth. Okay, so we have a couple different ways that we can scan this piece of equipment. You could either go to the specific component here, whether that be the engine or the instrument panel, whichever, or you could do what I recommend and go to what's called the TGS3 scan. It stands for Total Global System Scan. And what that does is it's going to go out and it's going to ping every module that could be present on this piece of equipment. As we saw out there, it was pretty easy to find the diagnostic connector out there on the skid steer. However, like I said, some of the pieces of equipment that you may get on, it's very difficult to find the diagnostic connector. So having this little video here is truly helpful, saves you a ton of time. Again, it's going to show us, we need to make sure that the ignition is on in the run position. Okay, so what our global system scan did was it went out and identified all of the ECUs that it could. For the diesel injection side, you can see we have quite a bit of fault codes here. This implement was actually just in the shop for service not too long ago, so it makes sense that these would be here. The battery had died, so some of these may be related to that. As you can see, there's yellow circles and then there's red circles. So yellow is going to indicate that that is a memory or a stored fault, and red is going to indicate that that is an active or present fault. You can see we have some faults here in the instrument cluster as well, and our engine vehicle adjustment module seems to be okay. So if we wanted to take a deeper dive into any one of these, you simply could click, you could double click this, or you could click it one time and this little icon down here at the right with this with the eyeglass, you can select that. Okay, again, make sure the instrument panel is on, which it is. Okay, so now that we've pulled up our diagnostic session on the engine ECU, you can see all of our fault codes just populated. As we stated before, it's always going to default to your faults page. So whether you're working on the skid steer or on the boat that we did in our previous video, or a car or a motorcycle, it's all going to be the same. The way the software is laid out remains consistent. So again, that's very helpful for learning it, for learning a new system, or when you have new technicians that may be familiar with factory software. Each one of those is different, as everyone knows. So having a consistent platform makes training much more easy. On the live data, there are 57 different data PIDs that we can view here. Again, we can double click to get it into a graph mode. Double click again to make it go back down. This little speedometer gauge down here at the bottom, this is going to be what we call our dashboard functionality. Dashboard is a graphical representation of whatever system you're looking at, whether that be the injection system, your VGT, or your DEF or DPF system. Each one of these is going to look slightly different depending on the make or model that you're working with, because these are all drawn specific to that actual vehicle. As you can see, you have these blinking lights. So say, for example, we're looking at this dashboard and we have an erroneous data PID that just doesn't seem right, whether that be temperature or a voltage that's just out of whack. If we wanted to jump in there and go test that component, you just simply select that, and again, that's going to pull up our wiring diagram automatically, and then it's also going to take us directly to where that component is on the wiring diagram. Again, we've got our device card functionality, so if you didn't understand how this component works, you simply go to the device card, you can see the description, you can see the operating principles, how to go about testing it. That way you can verify whether or not you have a faulty component or maybe a more serious problem. Okay, jumping back out here, I'll show you the last one. This is related to the SCR system. Again, any of the ones that were blinking, you can select it, and again, that will take you to your wiring diagram. Same thing applies. You've got your device card that explains that component. Okay, so now that we kind of understand live data, we're going to jump over to the AI functionality. Now this is a brand new feature that was just released with IDC6 that really elevates TEXA's standing. You're going to be able to find various information within TEXA's database And utilizing AI, we can actually find out more information about this code, what it means, and how to actually go in and fix it. So again, TEXA being ahead of the curve, one step ahead of the competition, adds AI into diagnostics, making it that much more fast and reliable. And ECU information, again, we talked about that as, you know, hardware, software numbers, calibration IDs, that type of thing. You know, tells you what the serial number of your injectors are. That's going to vary. The amount of information you'll find in ECU information will vary from ECU to ECU. Really just kind of depends. Some of the newer ones you'll see much more. Some of the older ones you'll see much less. It just really just depends on what that ECU was programmed to, what information it was programmed to send out. Activations, again, as we learned with our previous video, activation is all of our bidirectional testing. So if we think that we may have a faulty component or something like that and we actually want to bidirectionally test that, we can go into the activations and run one of the tests, whether that's shutting off an injector, turning fans on and off, some of your def dosing testing, and so forth. And finally, we have our settings. So settings is everything that we can go in there and change or adjust. So if you're changing out an injector, for example, we have injector replacement. If you need to run a regeneration because you have issues with your after treatment system, DPF filters clogged or so forth, you can run a regeneration. You can replace the DOC, EGR cooler replacement, changing the oil, so your regular maintenance stuff is in there as well. If you change out the full SCR system, you can change that. So as you can see, you can do quite a bit here, and that's just in the engine side. As you'll see in a little bit, we'll jump into some of the other modules to where you can see even more information. So we're going to jump outside really quick. I want to show you exactly what some of these functions will do. So we'll do some bidirectional testing on the engine side. We'll also run in here, and then we'll go ahead and start a regen so that you can see that functionality as well. All right, guys, now that we're out here, we're going to run a couple of bidirectional tests, and then we're also going to put the skid steer in a regen so that you can see that functionality. So first thing we're going to do, go over here, injector off test, hit the play button, hit confirm. Make sure that it is in neutral position and that you have the parking brake enabled. I just went ahead and did that. Okay, so again, like we spoke of on our dashboard functionality, you have a graphical representation of this test. So it's kind of neat to see it in this format. And I'm going to go ahead and shut off injector 1. So you should notice a drop in performance. We just dropped out the #1 injector. This is good for testing to make sure that the injector is actually doing what it needs to do. So if we were to get to one of these and then nothing happens, that might be a good indication that that injector is faulty or not performing to the standard. So we'll cycle through these. Again, you notice the drop in performance here. Turn that back on. Start by doing #3. And lastly, #4. So in this case, all of these are functioning properly. All right, guys, lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the settings side and run a regen like we said before. Again, this is going to tell you all of the preconditions that you need to do in order to carry out this. You need to make sure that you have proper temperatures, make sure that the parking brake's on, everything's in neutral, things to that nature. Again, some more information. And we hit confirm, and it should ramp up RPMs here in just a second. as you can see on the screen, it started to burn red hot whenever, so that's the software, the graphical representation showing you that you are currently in a regeneration status. You also have the ability to look at your RPMs, look at your temperatures, and look at your temperature downstream of the SCR catalyst as well. Alright, so we're not going to run this whole thing. As many of you know, if we let this run through, it could take the better part of an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. So for the sake of the video, we're going to cancel this regeneration, but this process would happen all the way through, and like I said, it could take 45 minutes, could take an hour, maybe longer. It just depends on how much soot has accumulated in that DPF. The cool thing about the software is, though, once it's in this regeneration status, unless you cancel it or it sees a condition in which it doesn't like maybe the temperature becomes too high or voltage gets out of whack, it'll automatically kick it out of regen as a safety issue. And then if there's nothing negative happens throughout this process and it burns all of that soot out, what it's going to do is it's going to start an automatic cool down process. So essentially, once you start this process, as long as there's nothing going on that's wrong with this vehicle, and that during that process, it'll run all the way through, it'll start the cool down, and you don't have to do anything else. Just need to monitor it to make sure that you're doing it safely. All right, guys, now that we're back inside, let's jump into the instrument cluster and see what we got here. All right, so it wants to make sure that the instrument panel is on, which it is, so we're going to hit confirm. Okay, again, as we said throughout, it's automatically going to default to the faults page here. These are all memory faults. If we wanted to clear these out, there's a little eraser down at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and clear those. Okay, so what this green triangle is going to indicate is that we've effectively erased those codes from the ECU's memory. They're just still showing there to give you that notification. However, if we were to exit the diagnosis and re-diagnose this module here, none of those codes would be present anymore. They've, like I said, they've been effectively erased from the ECU's memory. Live data works the same way. You have 77 different data PIDs that you can view on the instrument cluster. Again, you can graph, you can create a favorites list. Some have already been created for this vehicle, so if you want to see all of your temperatures, or you want to see all of your times, or all of your voltages, those would be present there. You also have the AI function like we talked about. Again, these have been cleared, so it's not going to let us do that, but if we had codes here, you would be able to click on that and it would tell you more information about that code and possibly what to check for to fix the issue. ECU information, again, that's, you know, software versions, hardware numbers, you know, calibration IDs, that kind of thing. And activations. So there's not many activations on this, but again, it's an instrument cluster, so really error clearing is pretty much all you're going to find there. We're going to jump out here and now we'll go check the last and final module on this skid steer. So we're going to go into our engine vehicle adjustment, or the universal control module. Again, it's got our data PIDs here. You can create your favorites list just like before. ECU information, like we said, hardware software numbers, calibration IDs, and your settings. So this is a really neat part of the software. This is what I believe really sets TEXA apart from our competitors, is not so much that we can diagnose the engine or force a regen, you know, do injector testing, change out injectors, that kind of thing. But it's the advanced settings. It's the depth and the breadth of the coverage beyond your core system. So your subsystem coverage with TEXA is unrivaled. As you can see here, we have your drive calibration, your joystick calibration, and your loader valve calibration as well. So generally speaking, those are functions that you can only get done through the dealer and through OEM software. But as you can see here, TEXA provides that in our software. All right, guys, as you can see, we have quite a bit of coverage on the New Holland C245 Super Boom Skid Steer. But our day's not over, so we still have plenty more to show you. So now we're gonna go out and we're gonna hook up to the TEXA car software to see what TEXA car with IDC6 can do for your shop.